The NCAA season is here, so where do the top teams rank? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to the Fanco Wrestling YouTube channel, where we talk everything going on in the world of wrestling. And with the NCAA season officially here, I thought it was time to unveil the preseason rankings. Now, these are my rankings that I have put out there, in my opinion, where I think every team should land. These are based on certain criteria, which I will get to in just a second. But listen, my rankings are not the same as Flo's. They're not the same as Intermatch or Open Match or Match Scouts, Crystal Ball. They're not the same as Win Magazine. They're just not, okay? I mean, there are some similarities. I'm not putting like a crazy team at number 1 or number 2, but I have some disagreements, and I think that it's okay to talk about those disagreements, and I'm sure you will have disagreements with me. So that's why we talk about these down in the comments below. So I'm doing my rankings a little bit differently this year. I'm not doing my top 25 or 30 like I have in the past. I'm just doing my top 10. Now, because this is the preseason, I will be talking actually about my 15 through 11 as well, so you know teams that are kind of on the cusp of being in that top 10. But I'm mostly going to be talking about my top 10 rankings, and that's it. So first of all, let's talk about the number 15 through number 11. At number 15, we have Virginia Tech, who I think Virginia Tech is a very solid team this year, a very solid ACC team, and we're going to see great things from them. They have a couple guys who aren't in the rankings quite yet. They're younger guys, but with Mekhi Lewis, who is leading the charge this year, I think they're going to have a good team. Oklahoma, another team that has a solid lineup, as well as Arizona State at number 13, with Courtney, Teamer, and Valencia, with a couple losses, with the Shields and Zahid Valencia loss. I think they're going to take some thumps. I don't think they're going to be able to beat a Penn State this year like they have last year, but I still think we'll see good things out of them. At number 12, I have Minnesota, who they have a good lineup, but not quite that top 10, with Brayton Lee and Gable Steveson really leading the charge there, really their top 2 guys. They're solid, but not enough to get into the top 10. And at number 11 is a exciting Big Ten team who I think just keeps gaining momentum year after year, and with an amazing recruiting class that they've had over the last couple of years, with Devin Schroeder and Kendall Coleman and Garrett Ninehouse, who I'm super excited for because Ninehouse is actually from my high school, so I'm excited to see how he does. But in the lineup this year, but I think that they're going to be knocking, and we could see them potentially jump up. And listen, these rankings are going to change within the first couple weeks, likely. These are the dual meet rankings. And so as teams duel each other, we're going to see things change. But this is where they are for the preseason. So let's talk about these top 10 teams, the top 10 teams. First, we have to talk about number 10 in Missouri, and let's talk about the criteria first for these rankings. So as we talk about the criteria, I had to look a little bit at last year's history and how teams did last year as far as their record was concerned, as well as teams, guys that teams have lost, as well as guys that teams have gained. Now, the distinction really comes into factor here, where just because a team gained a amazing freshman recruit doesn't mean that they just deserve to go all the way up to the top. So, for example, at Penn State, they have some great freshmen. We saw them compete well in the offseason in freestyle, but they are not proven yet in college. They may be proven in the first 2 weeks of competition. We're going to see that, but that's just something of note. We have to talk about that, right? As well as guys that teams have lost. Obviously, Ohio State lost Luke Pletcher. They lost Colin Moore. That's a big loss. But they also gained some good guys. So we have to talk about that a little bit too, and that factors into the discussion, as well as how many top 25 guys are ranked, how many guys are ranked in the top 25, as well as how many guys are ranked in the top 10, in the top 2, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that kind of goes into this algorithm, and this is kind of how I got these rankings. So with that out of the way, Mizzou at number 10 has some great guys with Zach Elam, redshirt sophomore, coming in this year, at Brock Mahler at 149, with 7 top 25 guys. I think Mizzou is definitely a team leading the MAC and will likely win it this year. We could see them have an undefeated season, but that's something else. At number 9 is a team that actually a couple rankings disagree with me, should be in the top 10. I believe they should be in the top 10 right now. They had a great season last year. North Carolina at 14-3 had a great streak for the longest time. until they took on NC State. Was a tough duel for them. A great match, though, with Zach Sherman, with Austin O'Connor, who's a top-ranked guy at 149. I think could easily be at the number 1 spot, not currently. Kennedy Monday at 165. I mean, North Carolina is it's loaded with a lot of tough guys and wrestling this first weekend. And next is Iowa State. So Iowa State, with no Gomez, that's their unfortunate loss, and that's why I actually did have them up higher with Gomez. I think I had them at maybe that number 6 or 7 spot, but I did have to bump them down with the loss of Gomez. I mean, we still could see a good guy come in and fill in for Gomez, but right now that's kind of where it is. They still have Ian Parker, Jarrett Deegan, David Carr, who are all ranked in the top 10. David Carr is somebody who I think will be in contention for a title this year against Deacon, against Hidley. I'm super stoked to see what David Carr can accomplish this year. And 8 guys ranked in the top 25 for Iowa State, and I think actually they may have 5 or so in the top 10, so 4 or 5 in the top 10, impressive. Ohio State is next up. Ohio State, which is the first Big Ten team I have actually in this ranking that we have to talk about. 8 guys in the top 25 with, like I said, with a loss with Pletcher, with a loss in Colin Moore. It's impressive that we now have Ohio State still rebounding and building with Sammy Sasso, number 1 guy at 149. Carson Karchula, who had a great RTC Cup, had a great offseason, top 15 guy at 165. I think we're going to see him bump up a little bit as the season goes on. Caleb Romero, a top 5 guy. Anthony Etchemendia, who we may see make the lineup. We'll see where Ohio State ends up landing with him. Rocky Jordan, I think, has a strong chance to All-American this year, as well as Tate Orndorff, who transferred in the offseason and will be great for Ohio State. At the number 6 spot, Okie State. Now, Okie State has some great guys with Dayton Fix, with Bula Wallen, Wyatt Sheets, Travis Whitlake. They also have some great new incomers, and I think this is really where you're going to see Okie State jump in the rankings, or we could see them jump in the rankings, is because of a lot of these younger guys. Depending on how an AJ Ferrari does, who I think he can do well at 97, I think we could see Okie State do very, very well this season. They were 13-3 last season, have 7 in the top 25. I think we're going to see that jump a little bit. Now, this is where at number 5, we're in the top 5 now. I have Penn State, okay? This is where Penn State, I think, should be at this time. In my personal opinion, I think Penn State's going to jump up, but I can't really put my personal opinion that much into these rankings because Penn State has these freshmen who are unproven in college. They've done, I mean, look at Kirk Fleet's offseason in all of the Rockfin events. He's just plowing through guys, absolutely just hammering them, tacking them in like the first period. It's crazy, but we'll see how that translates over to folk style. I think we're going to see a lot of the same stuff in folk style, but with also Michael Beard, unproven guy, Joe Lee, unproven guy, Carter Srirachi, semi-proven with winning the Southern Scuffle, but really unproven for the most part. But then with returners like RBY, Nick Lee, Aaron Brooks, I mean, this is going to be a stacked team. No doubt about it. This is going to be a stacked team. 9 guys currently in the top 25, and I think that's going to grow. We'll see how Penn State ends up doing this season. But next we head up to Big Ten teams again with Michigan and Nebraska. Now, Michigan I have at 4, Nebraska at number 3. I know a lot of rankings have these ones actually flip-flopped, and there are valid reasons for that. I talked about that a little bit in my Big Ten rankings, but for the most part, I think Michigan and Nebraska, this is how they should be because Nebraska really proved themselves last year, and they have pretty much, I think everybody's returning this year. I think everybody is returning this year. Chad Redd, Mike Labriola, Taylor Vance, Eric Schultz. A couple of these guys I think could actually not just All-American, but win a national title. I truly believe that. Now, I do believe that Michigan has a shot to win a national title with a couple of these guys, with Micic, with Massa, Amin, and Paris, who are all number 2 and 3, respectively, at their weights. Like, these are just solid teams, both having 9 in the top 25 and even more than that in the top 10. So these are 2 teams that I think this will be one of my favorite duels between Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio State. Big Ten is going to be unbelievable this year. I mean, will we see an undefeated team? Comment below if you think we will see an undefeated team in the Big Ten, if Iowa will be undefeated, or Michigan or Nebraska. I'd like to know. So you may be wondering why I have NC State at number 2. And the reason I have NC State at number 2 is because they were undefeated last year. They have all the guys returning this year for the most part. I mean, with Tariq Wilson, with the Hidleys back at the top 2 and 3 spots respectively at their weights, with Jacob Camacho, who had an incredible postseason at the ACC Championship. I think it'd be disrespectful to put them anywhere below this right now. I really do. Because NC State proved themselves last year. They've beat some great teams. Now, did they beat Nebraska in Michigan and Penn State and all these other teams last year? No. But I think that they proved themselves at being 15-0, and when we're looking at dual meet rankings, this is where they deserve to be right now. A couple weeks into the season, maybe they have some thumps where Nebraska and Michigan are just rolling through people. We'll see, but dual meet rankings, I think NC State deserves to be at this number 2 spot, and at number 1, I think is Iowa. I mean, right now, yeah, it's Iowa, right? So 13-0 last year, 9 guys returning, 10 who are top 25, 10 who are top 10, even more than that in the top, or even a higher percentage of that in the top 5. Like, impressive. Everybody's returning but Pat Lou at 49. But, guess what? They have Max Murin at 149 because, guess what? Jaden Ironman transferred in the offseason, if you didn't know about that, at 141. With Spencer Lee at 125, Michael Kemmerer, who's going to be, like, pounding some skulls this year. Pardon my language. He's going to be doing a great job this year. Alex Marinelli, who's back at 165. Anthony Cassiope. We're going to see Avis Saad or Nelson Brands at 84. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a stacked team. Is anybody going to be able to beat them? I think that there's a shot, but I think that Iowa are the clear favorites, which brings us to the NCAA Championship Predictor. The NCAA Championship Predictor is showing us that Iowa right now is projected to score 149 points. Now, this is different than dual meet rankings. These are just the NCAA tournament scoring. So this is based on where guys are ranked right now, how they may likely score at the NCAA Championships. Iowa, you see they're far and away the favorites right now, with 149 points. Michigan at number 2 with 92 tournament points. Okie State, NC State, and Iowa State were tied until Gomez actually dropped out of the rankings due to his retiring from wrestling due to unfortunate concussions and injuries. Just so unfortunate for him and for Iowa State. But Okie State and NC State are tied with 71 points, and Penn State rounds out the top 5 with 68 potential points at the NCAA Championships right now. And I think that we're going to see that go up. We're going to see those numbers go up, and that's what I'm looking forward to as the weeks go on, as the rankings change, as we get crazy upsets. That's what the NCAA season is all about. These are the preseason rankings, and listen, they're likely going to change over the weeks, as I've said before, but please let me know who you think should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up through 10. I'm interested to know your thoughts.